We've got Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers joining us. As always, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I suppose my confusion this afternoon, Makwe, comes largely from the big movements that we saw on the JSE today, and it was across most of the local bourse, industrials, resources, a really, really strong showing today. And I'm just wondering what would have informed market participants to move in the manner that they did today.
Afternoon to you. I think we're informed by our expectations that we think that the central bankers will slow down when it comes to increasing interest rates aggressively. And I think that was also cemented by the fact that the Bank of Australia increased much smaller than we expected by 25 basis points. Market were expecting 50 basis points. And the whole story here is, as we get bad economic numbers, we hope that the central bankers can see that and are listening, that the economies are gradually getting into trouble, so they don't have to aggressively increase interest rates. So that itself has lifted hopes that if that happens, that we don't see that aggressiveness, then definitely economy is not going to get into a recession, and then there'll be demand for the likes of our commodities, as we've seen that they've been doing well, and also they got a lift from a weaker dollar, as we know that it makes it more affordable for holders of other currencies to be able to buy them. But basically, we are trading these markets on the expectations that interest rates won't be that aggressive as we have seen in the previous few sessions. And remember, there's a possibility that we can get what we call a stagflationary debt crisis. And should that happen, then definitely your consumer demand will be affected. And we know that almost all the G20 countries, they rely on consumer demand to have the economies to grow.
That's very interesting, Makwe, because it's a stark contrast from the tone that was expressed in terms of what central banks are going to be doing to curb inflation at all costs. So it's very interesting that we are seeing those movements. And of course, as you alluded to a moment ago, this has had some positive effects on the rand, that dollar weakness that has come through, the rand backtracking from those high over 18 rand levels against the US dollar. What is your view on the local unit and perhaps where it's going given these new developments?
The rand is mainly at the play of what is happening with the US Treasury yields. We've seen them coming down, and as they were going down, and then they took the dollar with them, and we saw the dollar weakening, and hence we see the rand strengthening. And also remember that the European Union happens to be our major trading partner. Also, when you see the likes of the euro strengthening, that continues to help the rand, and also for the fact that the rand itself is very sensitive to commodity prices. So higher commodity prices as well help the rand to be able to trade where it is trading now.
Let's talk some company news, Makwe. Telkom share price doing very well today. SENS announcement coming out after 9 o'clock this morning, indicating to their shareholders and to the market really that talks between itself and MTN are ongoing in terms of that acquisition. So the conversation around a transaction is still firmly underway. And it would seem on Telkom's side, markets as well as the shareholders are quite happy about the continuation of those discussions. What do you make of that transaction and really just the direction that it's headed in, given the fact that we've also got Rain, which has become a player, the tug of war for Telkom, it's been called?
You know, starting with Rain. Rain is pleading with Telkom that please buy us, but the other way with MTN. MTN, you know, this is a big brother. I mean, they've got a market cap of almost 226 billion compared to that one of Telkom of just around 24 billion. And for me, I think this is more of a play of the network or the fiber network that we see, because Telkom happens to be, they have the largest. I think they cover almost 165,000 kilometers, and you've got your MTN covering around 23,000. And remember, there's also now that talks or the major deal that happened between Vodacom and Vumatel. I mean, Vodacom is not too bad. I think they've got 33,000, and Vuma, they've got almost 18,000 kilometers. So I see that as MTN trying to have at least an upper hand when it comes to this whole thing of the fiber network. And I don't think spectrum here will be an issue. The issue here is the fiber network.
No, absolutely. And of course, initially, Makwe, you'll remember, SALC had reared its head, raising some concerns about the dominating factor that MTN will gain should this transaction be finalized. But we'll keep a close eye on it and we'll continue to unpack those developments. As always, Makwe, thank you very much for your time this evening. That is Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. And that, of course, is where we end the business bulletin for this hour.